Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us today as we are going to be recapping week 4 with Claire Bear from Claire View. So let me bring Claire up. How are you today, Claire?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Good Friday, So,
10 seconds ago, we were both exhausted.
yeah, we were. We're just put on like we're just gonna be a little more upbeat for you all. But yeah, I did tell him I'm wiped. I don't know about you guys watching that tedious hearing, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
it was too monotonous for me.
yeah,
Nothing really exciting.
right. Well, where do you want to start? You want to start with today? You want to start with, well, I'll let you, where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about?
Oh gosh, let's get over today. Like we could end with today, but if you want me to stay awake, let's go back to Monday.
Okay.
Because I'm sure you'd rather me be awake. I mean, today was good in the morning, and we had the defense, and no problem with that.
Right.
But I'd rather start with Monday. I want to wrap up with the state, just like they did, because,
Yep.
in all honesty, the state really finished up quite nicely with physical evidence this week.
Hmm.
Hotly contested evidence, the ballistic expert,
Hmm.
which they had separate hearings about pre-trial, because in 2018, 2019, when he did his first report, he really just listed his conclusions.
Hmm.
And if you'll notice, they never even entered his report into evidence, so that the defense really didn't get to go back to his report and say, well, why didn't you say that here, or why didn't you say that there? Because the result of the hearing was that during the questioning by the judge and the other side, to say how he came to his conclusions during the pretrial hearing, he was able to, as we saw him on the stand, say exactly how he tested everything and exactly how he came to the conclusions he did. He just wrote like a summation report
Hmm.
for the court. So there was no doubt he wasn't going to be able to orate everything to the jury appropriately. So the judge had ruled that it would be allowed, but the scope would be that while he was on the stand, the prosecution should elicit the resulting of like how he got to those conclusions
Hmm.
for the jury. They shouldn't just be like, well, this is what happened.
Right.
Um, but that did open the door, right?
Hmm.
Because there was the ammunition, what the defense calls an issue, and I call damn good policing and cooperation with experts, but about using the special rare ammunition.
Hmm.
About that, eh, that's really not in Paul Caneiro's favor for them to put, you know,
Mm-mm.
again, like, were you frustrated, Chris? Because here I'm going, like, whose side are you on, defense team? Why are
Mhm.
you pointing to the fact that the ammunition is rare, very
Mhm.
rare, and that
Mhm.
they had to actually get it from Paul Caneiro's stock to
Yeah.
test it? And oh, by the way, it happens to be a perfect 100% match now because we use the exact ammunition. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
I wasn't frustrated. I wasn't frustrated because, it was the defense theoretically knows what they're doing. So I wasn't frustrated in that regard. I was just maybe, well, I guess scratching my head could be frustrated. I guess if I was on, I don't know, I don't want to say the wrong thing about whose side I'm on, but I mean, right
you
now
know,
it's not looking
it's
good for
hard.
Paul, in my opinion, you know?
Um, there's a lot of physical evidence, a lot of damning
Yeah.
physical evidence. No matter how many times they bring up Corey, that
Hmm.
doesn't get rid of DNA. It doesn't get rid of a ballistics match. It doesn't get rid of
Hmm.
him lying to the police and being
Hmm.
caught on camera, not in his bed where he said he was.
Hmm.
It doesn't get rid of anything. All it does is put this specter of a ghost of a third party over here in the clouds that they
Hmm.
can keep pointing to, which is why I don't think that they will bring Corey to the stand at all, because he's much better out there as an illusion that
Hmm.
they can just talk about
Yeah.
than giving the jury any concrete thing to go by, like an
Hmm.
answer of like, I didn't do it, I
Hmm.
wouldn't do it, I have
Right.
an alibi.
Hmm. Yeah, keep him as the boogeyman, keep him as that, like you
Hmm.
said, that mystery person out there. Was he a part of it,
Hmm.
co-conspirator? Are they going to go after him afterwards? Who was the mastermind? Yeah, all of these questions are potentially could be running through the jury's head. And then if they did bring Corey in, that gets rid of all of that. And we've been talking about this, I think, from the beginning. Even if the defense brought Corey in, that doesn't make sense because they're already pointing the finger at him, right? So
Right.
why bring him in? If the state brings him in as a rebuttal, they've already gotten in testimony about where he was. He has an alibi already. He was at his in-laws. They interviewed him twice. So it doesn't make sense for either party truly to bring Corey in. As much as we selfishly want to hear from Corey and Paul, for that matter, it just doesn't make sense, you know?
Oh, I definitely don't think we're gonna hear from Paul at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
would be a big move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
It
got nothing to get. He has everything to lose by taking the stand, nothing to gain. Nothing to gain.
exactly. But while we're on the jury side, because this is the part like that I find not only do I find like all the technical stuff really fascinating, but trying to
Mhm,
put yourself in the shoes of the jury, like right
mhm,
now.
mhm,
In one of the things that I wanted to ask you that I keep writing over and over again is
mhm,
how do you think the DNA evidence, after all the controversy back and forth with,
mhm,
I guess they're calling it Star Max now because it's easier,
mhm.
because it's just a bunch of consonants put together. But the
Right.
StarMax DNA um, evidence,
Mm,
which is secondary to the original evidence. Remember, they already found DNA of Sophia in regular DNA testing. That
mhm,
they really, if you notice, they really couldn't contest much, and they didn't go over anything about contamination or this that. They really had nothing as far as chain of custody, did they? They went
mhm,
over it. They tried to poke a little holes, but the state did such an excellent job of doing chain of custody to make sure that everything was like zipped up tight. So there
mhm,
wasn't any possibility of contamination, of faulty testing in the original set of DNA testing that we heard about first, which
mhm,
did have Sophia's blood on Paul Caneiro's jeans, or what is assumed to be his jeans, found burned in his house in a container at his size. But
right.
like, there's no DNA that says he wore them because most of the DNA was destroyed by fire damage and by water damage from putting out the fire. So
Mhm,
there's nothing on the, although they tried, because remember, they swabbed the inside of the jean band to try to determine who was wearing them.
mhm.
But how do you feel after the Streamex, the StarMex DNA came out? Do you think that how do you think the jury is gonna feel, my question is, about new technology? Like
I think they handled it well in the sense that they said it's been around for a while, years, and New Jersey is late to the game. I
mhm,
think I forget the timing. I have it in my notes, but I don't recall right now. Like it's been around for maybe 10 years or something, and New
mhm,
Jersey came on in like 2020 or something like that.
mhm,
So it's not like New Jersey was like they were right there at the beginning of a new technology. It's been around for long enough, and like 80% of the country uses it or something like that. So I mean, it's
mhm,
so in hearing that, I was like, yeah, I think the jury would be accepting of it. I don't think it's a new technology. Like if it just came out like last year or 2 years ago,
mhm,
or you know, uh, then I think it might be like, well, it's not proven yet. But I think the state put in enough that it's been around long enough. New Jersey isn't, new to it. It's been tested
mhm.
by other
Right.
other agencies around the country, and the world for that matter. Um, so I thought that yes, they could have. I think the cross could have been a little bit stronger, and with you know chain of custody perhaps, but they were just going round and around and around. Was that the one with Mr. Murray? He just kept. I have a
Well,
note.
both Mr. Murray and Monica Mastalone were on different DNA experts, but
Yeah.
specifically, like in the opening statements, which you played again today, and you heard
Mhm.
clearly Monica Mastalone take shots at the at StarMax and
Yeah.
also say, and you're going to hear about family DNA, and you're going to need to remember that, like family DNA, like things
Mhm.
can be the same. Like
Mhm.
actually trying to put it out there to the jury that if Paul tests positive, Corey would have too,
Mhm.
or that like if it's Paul, well, it could have been Keith because like they're brothers and everything's tied together and everything. And
Right.
yet during the DNA testimony, it's clear that Paul Caneiro's profile is completely different from Keith. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was excellent that the prosecution made sure every time that they were testing for Paul, that they made sure that they tested Keith, and Keith was not a match at all, and said that on the record to
Right.
the jury. And I hope they picked that up, because I'm sure in closing arguments, they have their thing, the defense that they want to go through. And that's one of the ways to muddy the water, so to speak. But honestly, in my opinion, I hate to actually try to come up with a verdict ahead of time, because like juries can be very unpredictable. But
Mm-hmm.
how can the jury deny the physical evidence in this case? We have him on video. We have his car. His own neighbor, again, had to testify that the car vanished from the lot, and he gave the photographs for it, even though he's there saying what a wonderful guy he is, and
I
and
know.
this and that, and I've known him forever. He couldn't possibly do it. But then again, and I'm sorry, I know, I realize I sound like I'm rambling, but again, prosecution able to say, but you really don't know what they talk about at night, and you're not privy to the brothers' private conversations, and what do you know about their business deals?
Right.
And each time, all four of those witnesses was like, they didn't know much, did they?
Mm-mm.
Christopher Decker and Nicole Walsh were brilliant that way. When
Mm-hmm.
you comes to character witnesses, they're going to try to make the defendant appear human to the jury. That's the main purpose. And that's why they came out of the box swinging with it.
Mm-hmm.
Defense is up. We now have to humanize Paul, because this is a monstrous event. We
Mm-hmm.
have to show the human side of Paul. He's capable of long-term relationships. He loves those children. Look at him crying every time you mention the niece or the nephew. They have
Mm-hmm.
to make it seem impossible that he would do it. And
Sure.
then here comes the prosecution. But you really don't know, right? Because like
Mm-hmm.
you're not privy to everything. He's a great guy to you, but
Mm-hmm.
leaving again that specter of all the damning physical evidence,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
He didn't try to steal from you. You didn't hear any phone calls. You didn't read any text messages. Paul didn't confide in them. Hey, Keith's kind of a, or Keith, or be more like Keith confiding in them, saying, "Hey, Paul's kind of a jerk. He's been stealing money from me. What do I do?" You know,
Yeah.
None of that. They didn't overhear a phone call of, Paul.
Mhm.
Keith. I'll give you the password. Don't they didn't hear any of that, or they didn't
Mhm.
overhear any of that. So
And
to
yet they
me,
do have affidavits from people who actually worked with them. Tiffany,
mhm,
the manager, who actually had to say yes. The
yeah,
in her affidavit saying that yes, the accountant was asking for bank statements that Paul was not providing for 6 months,
mhm,
or
mhm,
yes, like we had to pay this under the wife because of this for Paul,
mhm,
or Keith's looking for this and Paul's not responding, like all of that. I mean,
yeah,
uh more intimate knowledge of it. I mean, it's one thing to have your neighbor say, "Yeah, we've been friends for a long time and he's been great," but
mhm.
unless you could provide a video of him home sleeping in his bed, I don't really think that they did much for him.
They move the needle, in my opinion, not one bit, to be quite honest. And if anything, solidified that they don't know Paul. You
Well,
think you know Paul
yes.
so well for 25, 30 years. Well, in fact,
Yeah.
you don't know him so well because,
And that's the thing. They're saying Keith is such a hard hothead, right? And yet
mhm,
the people, the friends of Keith and the family of Keith will say, no, he's gregarious. You always know what he's thinking because he's very direct and he's open. And
mhm,
it's not that he's a hothead. He's just quick to be exuberant and then
mhm,
quick to calm down. He
mhm,
doesn't fester. He doesn't blow up. He
mhm,
just lets you know exactly where he's from. And being from Jersey, I'm the same way. And I don't
mhm,
know, maybe people would call me a hothead, but
mhm.
they wouldn't be able to see that, say that I would do it for more than a minute or two. Like it wouldn't be like,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and
just like Paul being calm, is that
right.
stoic? Is that uncaring? Is that calculated?
Mhm,
Is that separate? Does he actually think he's smarter than the rest of the world? Is
right.
that detachment? Like it could go either way,
It
you
could,
know?
yeah. Does it fester? Is he not able to express his emotions, and that way, it festers and then he explodes? Once a year, he just blows up for, you know, based on stuff that's built up,
Mhm.
built up, built up. Yeah, you're right. That I was going to say that knife cuts both ways, but that's a bad thing to say.
It's a bad in this particular case with all
Yeah,
those wounds, yeah.
yeah,
But I get what you're saying. I keep saying it's a double-edged sword.
yeah.
The defense keeps throwing themselves on it, and I get frustrated because every
Mhm,
time they're trying to make a point for themselves, they're making at least a half a point for the prosecution.
agreed.
And and I'm hoping that the jury is trying to look at the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, because I do want Paul Caneiro to get a fair trial. He's been there
Sure,
a long time, and
sure.
the last thing I want is everything it turned in appeal after they did all this work. 8 years to come to trial, and then it gets overturned in appeal would be absolutely devastating. Um, but it also the prosecution is doing so. I mean, how many cases do you know that are this old and the prosecution is that tight on physical evidence in presentation? I mean, they did an outstanding job there.
Yeah.
And I hate to sound so pro prosecution so much, but like I do
Mm,
love the law and I do have to celebrate when I see it being done well.
mhm,
We've seen so many sloppy prosecutions and so many missed opportunities and so many like not such tight cases coming
mhm.
forward, where
Agreed.
they stayed on track that I'd have to say they did. And I'd have to say that Monica Mastelloni, if anything, she's passionate about making sure Paul Caneiro gets a fair shake.
Mhm,
And I admire her opening statement. It reminded me again how fair she was. She goes, I will never defend. She's not defending the act. What
mhm.
happened? It's a
Right,
tragedy, and that's that. And I'm not here to defend that. I'm just here
right,
to tell you Paul Caneiro didn't do it because
right.
that's my and basically she's saying that's my job. I'm a public defender. Doesn't
Mhm,
matter if I believe him or anything. I'm just going to make sure that when you're looking at the evidence, that you're looking at it fairly and you're not letting anybody pull a fast one and you're not looking at it like, it all piles up because like she said, even the best cases could have the wrong guy,
mhm. Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Although in this case I doubt it
Mhm.
because I I mean, once you get DNA, what kind of a story, Chris, could the defense come up with for the blood on the jeans that has the kids on there?
There's really nothing. There's really nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Yeah.
I said to my audience, are they going to bring a family member up that says
Mm,
that there was like a party in September where
mm,
Paul Caneiro went after Sophia fell in the driveway and skinned her knees and like
mm.
and then well that would have worked until they also during the testing found Jesse on the same
Yeah.
pair like uh-oh
Yeah.
like uh-oh spaghettios.
Yeah. So, okay, so based on everything that we've heard so far, what like name the if you can, name in order what's the most um glaring evidence, the most damning evidence, the evidence in your mind that should Paul be convicted by this jury? What do you think? What if you were on the jury right now? What's like jumping out at you? Let's go like from 1 to 5 or one. To me, it's like one to
Okay.
five. I think I can name five, but however many you can name, what go from like one down. What's the most impactful? I should say.
For me, the one that hits more elements and people are probably not going to agree with me, but it's ballistics because
Mm,
ballistics not only shows a perfect match of the ammo that is very rare and is in his home, in his possession. It
mm,
also says that he owned the gun, and it
mm,
also says state of mind. He took the time to change the barrel of the gun, and it was discovered on the other barrel was also discovered in his possession, in his purse, in his
mm,
backpack. I mean, that's pretty damning. That shows
mm,
premeditation, that shows a long-term plan. It also shows not wanting to get caught.
mm,
And that's all the way through from
mm,
planning it, doing the deed to covering it up. And for me, that's the most damning evidence. There's nothing besides peeking on his report and trying to say that kind of cracked me up that ballistics and tool markings isn't exactly a science. I said, "Oh, Andy Murray, are you going to get some hate mail? Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Good on you. I hope you're the man that can take it." But actually to say that ballistics is not actually scientific in any way
Mhm.
And for Sergeant First Class Clayton to take that on the chin and just kind of smirk a little bit and then just proceed with how they do everything and just not worry about it, because
Mhm.
it is such a way that they do it, that it is more experience than it is, because all the guns are different, each gun and each
Mhm.
ammo makes its own marks in it. There's not a set book they can give you that says if it looks like this, it's this,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
but to say that they don't use any scientific method when they're very procedural about how they do everything was a bit of a reach, I thought, for Andy Murray, but, like, kudos for him. Like I said,
Mhm.
they're
Mm.
very passionate about, you know?
I guess you
But
could
it's
say that.
ballistics. It's
Yeah.
ballistics for me, and I know everybody
Mhm.
thought I was gonna say DNA, especially people watching me from my
Mhm.
own channel, because I am so pro new technology.
Mhm.
And I do think that that weighs heavily, but I think the ballistics is gonna matter the most to the jury because it's easy to understand. He
Mhm.
was an excellent witness, Clayton, and I don't think the defense did anything to touch the results of
Mhm.
that conclusion.
No. And if anything, that cross by Mr. Murray just was going around and around and around. Literally, I think it took an hour. They started at 8:30. I think by 9:30, the judge is like, I think judge said, "Hey, guys, come up to the bench," because he
Mhm.
just kept saying the same thing, same questions just over and over and over again. And it was like, Mr. Murray, what are you doing? You're lulling
Yeah.
us into you're like trying to hypnotize us with just nonsensical
And
logic.
the
It
long
made no
and
sense.
the long pauses in between the questions, like, did he forget where he was himself? Like,
Yeah,
if he was
maybe.
on the first lap, the second lap, or the 32nd lap of that question,
Mhm.
because the pauses in the end, like, to figure out what he was gonna do, I was like,
Yeah, he kept looking at his
"Wow."
notes or his book, whatever it
Mhm.
was, and yeah, maybe he was getting lost. I don't
I
know.
I wanted to see that. I can imagine it's just full of squiggles, or he writes in a circle that just goes out and out and out all the way on the page, you know? It's like
Right. So I would agree with you on the ballistics. That was big. That was a big moment. That was one of those moments where it was unique. And then for the cross to come back in and Mr. Murray saying he like confirmed that, he reiterated that, that
Mhm.
um, you know, is it rare for you to get, ammunition from the state, from the prosecutor? And he's like, I'm paraphrasing right now, but he's basically like, it's a joy. Are you kidding? And Mr. Murray's like, well, and usually a shooting scene, you're not lucky enough to have casings that you can, projectiles that you can test on. And he's like, no, that's true. And in this case, not only did we have the projectiles, but they came from the defendant's own house and they were unique. So he gave him the opportunity to say that again in front of the jury.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just
Yep.
like, what are you doing, man? You're just digging that hole deeper and deeper, for
I
Paul.
do you think his intent was to try to infer that the prosecution wanted to nail Paul so bad
Yeah,
that they actually took evidence from their own locker to give to him to prove it? And they did take a chance, right? They took a
yeah.
chance.
Yeah, yeah. No,
But
I think they were trying to throw the state under the bus by, oh, yeah, you're
they
right.
didn't do anything. There's no legal statute that says they can't do it. As a matter of fact, if you
Yeah,
have the guns that you think, if you have the ammunition that you think they used,
that's like
why not
Christmas.
match it perfect? It's
Yeah,
it's like wrapped up like a gift, and there's nothing that says they can't use it. Like,
totally, totally.
it's
Yeah,
part of evidence, we're allowed to cut up the jeans,
yeah,
and test everything on. Why
yeah,
wouldn't we test the ammunition found in his own home that
yeah.
matches the Sig 99 and, oh, just happens to match the case shellings that are over here? Like, why
Right.
wouldn't we?
And
Like,
it's unique. It's not like, oh, I can get that at any Walmart or any wherever. No, it's unique. I don't know where he gets it from, but it's unique. No, not
it's
and it's so
very, yeah.
unique that it wasn't even in the lab. It wasn't in the ballistics lab. They didn't even
And
have it.
that's
That's how unique.
unusual. Ballistics has a lot of ammunition. I mean, they do this every day, right? So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
that's a big one. That you're right. That's a big one. I still would probably go with DNA, but ballistics is. I mean, those two are like neck and neck for sure. Those two
It
alone.
also goes to show you with Paul Caneiro, is he actually the one that did these and planned
Mhm.
out this crime? That he's very clever in everything he did. He's like so smart, he's dumb,
Yeah.
like in the stuff that he didn't do, you
Mhm.
know. But then again, he thought everything was going to be burned up, so a lot of it, But to put, I guess putting, you asked me about that plastic tub in the beginning on week one, remember?
The what? The plastic
The
cup?
plastic tub
Oh,
that
tub.
that
Oh, yeah,
that the evidence was found in his basement, all melted up. And why would he put it in a plastic tub? And
yeah.
and it's for transport because the dog, the cadaver dog, actually hit the back of the Porsche Cayenne.
Hmm.
And that means that was blood from whatever that was, like, bad
Hmm.
evidence, so in there if the
Right.
cadaver dog is hidden.
Right.
So I guess he thought the plastic container, not for one, it wouldn't let any DNA or blood get transferred into his car, and two, it would probably keep the scent and everything. Maybe the dog wouldn't get anything. I don't know, but it
Hmm.
didn't work. The dog got the scent anyway,
Right.
from the trunk. So, like, that was damning. But what
Right.
is your number one? Your number one is ballistics too?
I'm. I think I'm still going to go with DNA. I'm going to go with DNA just by by a whisker because the DNA of having both children and him on his genes, to me, if it's planted, if this is all plant and he's being framed and all that, I think it's easier to frame somebody using their weapon, their ammunition, like
Mhm,
anybody. Let's just go down that path. Anybody, meaning Corey, could have gotten into his basement, taken his firearm, taken his bullets, and done this. But then how do you get Paul's? So that means you'd have to be wearing the jeans, doing
mhm,
this, getting blood all
uh-huh,
over yourself, and then putting it back in. But then that would be the only way. Oh, and then there's the gloves. Don't forget the gloves then had DNA
mhm,
of both
mhm,
Sophia, Jesse, and Paul. So then there's
mhm,
that. So to me, that's harder to fake, if you will. So that's why
mhm,
I would give the edge to the DNA. The ballistics, though, are right there because they are unique. They come from his house. It's the same firearm. So to me, that
mhm.
would be a little bit more easier to fake
Also,
and plant.
yeah, and I don't think Corey had access to keeping the 9mm SIG gun case under Susan Caneiro's bed, by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way.
Then there's
I
that.
don't
Yeah,
think unless Corey Canero had access to her bedroom, which I extremely doubt, but
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah.
the reason I didn't pick DNA is only because you're right. The actual physical evidence is the most damning, but I'm
Mhm.
going from the jury perspective. You asked me what, like, how with the jury and
If you were a
everything,
juror, sure. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's more complicated for them to understand. And
Mhm,
so even just the little marks that Monica Mastellone was making, saying this one matches and this one doesn't and this one matches, and is very
mhm,
confusing for a jury. They might
mhm,
just tune out and decide they can't even think about that because they're
mhm.
not sure what it means.
Right.
Which, as a jury member, you can do. It's really damning to us. We think it's spot on. He's nailed. There's DNA. But if
Mhm,
they're like, I don't understand the DNA testing and I don't understand how they got there, so I'm not
mhm,
taking that into my consideration of guilt or not guilt. I'm going to
mhm.
ignore it because
Right.
we've seen juries ignore stuff like this all the time if they don't have a good grasp of it. And I do think it was very complicated in that I do think the defense tried to make it even more complicated than it needed
Mhm,
to be. Although I
mhm,
think prosecution came back to Paul Wallace with great redirect to refocus on everything with yes and no answers and positive
mhm.
answers and affirmations. But
Yeah.
it was just so long. Plus, there were so many witnesses that involved it that by
Mhm,
the time they got to the end, the jury's like, not another DNA expert. Like, yeah, you
mhm,
got blood. So what? Leave me alone.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, for
Sure.
them, a
Sure.
little overwhelming.
Sure.
Ballistics was pretty straightforward. This
Yeah.
is the gun. These are the bullets. That's the barrel. And oh, by the way, he switched it. How clever of him.
Yeah.
It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Agreed. I think also him turning off the DVR and
Yeah, that's
then
my number two. They
yeah,
clearly understand what that represents,
yeah.
especially with the time right there on the
Mhm.
video. Can't
And
contest it. Yeah.
yep, yep. And then his SUV leaving. It's being and then spotted in on Keith's road street. Yeah, road, I guess. Um, that's right. An hour before the shootings are
Hmm.
reported, and everything just adds up, just adds up, just adds up. So I think they're going to be able to really discuss this and it'll be interesting to see what they come back with. Were you surprised that the state rested as early as they did, or do you think they they
I
needed
could not
more.
imagine who else they would bring up unless
Yeah.
they were going to bring hostile witnesses, would mean the Caneiro family themselves. I
Mhm.
don't know what else they could do.
I thought
And
maybe another ballistics, maybe because they only had the one Clayton, right? He was the only ballistics.
mhm.
Yeah, I
But
thought
look,
maybe,
yeah,
maybe.
he's sergeant first class. I don't imagine how they would get
Yeah,
anybody to do a better job than he did.
yeah, because they dealt with the DNA, like you said, ad nauseum. They had like three, four, five. They had five DNA.
Mhm.
Of course, they had the video. Oh, maybe the GPS. Maybe that's one thing that's kind of still a mystery and question for me. That I forget who was the lead detective who was talking about it, but I think it was one of the lead detectives. The GPS was they couldn't draw any conclusions because there was no data to be extracted from the infotainment or the GPS. So, did
And
Paul? What
they
did he do?
couldn't put the question forward to this expert because he has to talk about things he's an expert in, and that
Hmm.
is the extraction of the information and interpretation.
Hmm.
But
Oh, so
he's
maybe
not someone who installs GPS systems or with the Porsche Cayenne. So if
right.
they had got the dealer to call a dealership owner to come in, or
Yeah,
someone who installs GPS or knows about the GPS that's used in the Porsche Cayenne, that
yeah,
could actually say, give me the scenarios of when we wouldn't get the data. And they would say like a really large crash that would disable it,
hmm,
turning it off, removing the fuse, blah, blah, blah. They would have gave you a bunch of scenarios.
yeah.
But basically no information just means why, and I think the specter of doubt was more than giving the defense another crack at you're just trying to frame
Hmm.
my client.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's hanging. That's hanging for me because you see the video, you see him leaving, you see him going down the street, you see him over at Keith's house, you see him leaving Keith's house, you see him back,
Hmm.
coming back onto his street. Excuse me, coming back into his garage. And then because I'm like, oh, I'm all about digital data, cell phone
Hmm.
tracking. Okay, we know he left his cell phone at home. Okay, how about the car?
Who
Let's
would know better how to disable the GPS in his vehicle than a man so technically knowledgeable as Paul Caneiro, self-proclaimed even from the
Yep,
defense?
yep.
He's so smart. He knows everything about these systems.
Hmm.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
who better than Paul Caneiro to figure out how that would not happen? But another thing about the car, why didn't the defense come with like every other car that has taillights very similar?
Hmm.
Did they just think it wasn't worth it because we caught him leaving the driveway? But man,
Yeah, I think, well, it's very specific to that make and model. I mean,
yeah,
Porsche.
but the footage was so grainy. In my mind, I'm saying because the footage is so bad, like, and it wasn't as clear, there's got to be some that are close. No cigar, like not exact matches, but
Yeah.
close enough to put doubt on there. I would
Well,
have tried to put more doubt on the vehicle, to tell
yeah,
you the truth.
we did a side by side comparison before. I think Mr. Decker was doing direct. He actually pulled it up, the actual Paul's actual SUV. We did that beforehand, and to me,
Mhm.
it was the curve. I think we talked about this
The
also.
curve,
The
yeah.
curvature of the top, and then that black kind of running board, if you will, between
Mhm.
the front and back
Mhm.
tires. I mean, that alone. I mean, if you could find another car or another SUV that has that, then I'd be like you said, maybe that's what the defense could bring in an expert and say, well, here's three other make and models that have this similar, and maybe they will. Who knows? Maybe that'll be next week. They'll bring
I
in
don't.
somebody,
Well,
to
maybe
say
they'll
that.
bring in saying how many Porsche Cayennes are in the county. It's a bit, that area is pretty affluent. Well,
Yeah,
there's got to be more than one. So
right.
I would like to see the sales for New Jersey Porsche Cayennes and how many of them are white. And
Hmm.
I think that would be good. But I don't know what they're going to bring forward on Monday. I just know they're not done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so who else? Who else could the defense bring? You were talking about maybe a fire arsonist expert to
Well,
kind of
they did
refute.
bring a fire arsonist to challenge the fire arsonist in a pretrial. They
Hmm.
do had an expert, Mr. James Bold, that was on their list. Like at the time, this was pretrial, like when
Hmm.
they were contesting evidence coming in, and they didn't want Mr. Abraham coming in, and they really were going against Like, well, we heard the testimony of Captain Finnegan, and then we heard the Chubb life insurance guy, and they were that was for the ocean fire. But for the
Mhm.
Colts Neck fire, most of that arson inspection stuff was really, in pieces. Like
Mhm.
it came from reporting of the officers on site, and then the fire department on site, and the fire chiefs, and then going through and going through. So it's a little harder to track. And they still, to me, I haven't heard what they actually think, how he actually started the Colts Neck fire. They have eliminated the fact that the defense could say, oh, it was probably because the power was out. It's probably caused some kind of electrical damage. It has nothing to do with Paul Caneiro, and it's just like a coincidence. So they did
Mhm.
really kind of eliminate that with Mr. Abraham's testimony. There could not possibly have been an electrical start fire.
Yeah. Yeah, they put that to bed. Yeah. Multiple witnesses said that they checked the electric. That's what they do. Make sure gas. They checked the
Mhm.
gas line. They checked the electric. They checked the Roomba. Remember, it was some kind of cleaning.
Yeah, yup, everything was disconnected. Were you fascinated to find out he even went and disconnected the solar panel field?
Yes, that was a new
Yeah.
one too. I didn't even
Well,
dawn on
that
me. Yeah.
goes on your timeline. Why did it take so long?
Hmm.
Remember, we were looking like, why did it take so long to dismantle everything? Like, it's only like from here to here. Here's the generator.
Hmm.
Here's the meter. Why did that take so long? Because it was more than that. He had to run into the field and do that one. He had to
Hmm.
get down in the basement and the Roomba and all that. Everything had to be done.
Hmm.
Everything.
Hmm.
And that's why that other door in that porch into the mud room that goes to the basement,
Yeah.
when we were talking about that one bullet casing, like, I know it either came out of his pocket or it's a misfire or whatever, because he had to be going back and forth, like, before he actually did the homicides,
Yeah.
to get all of this. I really think he had that fire ready to go. I think he did get down there and get that set ready to go, because in my mind, the way the timing and all goes, that just makes it more efficient. And it
Hmm.
also makes up for the big gap of time in the beginning before Keith's out there at 3:18 to
Hmm.
get shot.
Hmm. And they showed that was about 16 minutes, excuse me, 16 minutes of the garage looking out, that shed,
Back
if
and
you will,
forth.
garage, and you saw that the light kept going on and off, and you saw somebody going back and forth, back and forth. So there was a lot of activity, and to
Mhm.
me, it looked like the same person going back and forth, back and forth. So,
Oh, yeah, wasn't that clever of prosecution to submit a picture
mhm,
uh, into the jury's file of what Paul Caneiro actually looked like at the time of the crime, so they can match up that body size, his
mhm,
haircut. They do have the image of him with the DVR and all like that, but
mhm,
it's different if you see him like standing next to somebody and you realize his body shape and everything,
mhm.
to try to match up for that shadow going back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. Paul was 5'11", right? 5'11".
5'11",
And
5'11", yeah.
that arrest warrant you sent, there's no like weight or height on it. It's really annoying because I was trying to find out.
No, it was. I thought it was. It's up at the top, the very, very top,
I'll
I
look
thought.
again. I saw his. Let me look again.
Well, there
Um,
is, aren't there attachments with it? Like the one, if I sent you the right one, there's a lot of different attachments with it.
oh shoot. Um,
One of them has
well,
it
we
on
do
there.
know that Keith is 5'5" and 201. That's how much he was.
Yeah, he's very stocky built. Like, he's
Yeah,
shorter, but
yeah,
he's
yeah,
built. He's not like, it sounds like he's heavy, but he was pretty muscular. He worked out.
yeah. So it has his eye color, his gender. This is page one.
It might be in one of the attachments because I know I saw it.
I wouldn't.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm
So I
sorry
wanted.
if I sent you the wrong one. I'll
No,
have to
no,
go
no.
look
It's
for the other one.
it's okay. So he's 5'11", like 200 pounds. Do you remember how heavy he was?
No, not even
Like,
200. I think it was
yeah,
just under. I think it was like 180, but I think it was like
yeah.
180.
So
Just
anyway,
wanted
you
to
could
check.
tell that that was not uh, Keith running back and forth in the garage. That was
No,
not
no.
somebody who was
Oh,
5'5".
not with the 5'5" difference. And now they're
No.
looking at Paul Caneiro in the courtroom. No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way. They did you like the way they were trying to slide in with their character witnesses Paul's health.
Um, oh, wait, which part? Remind me. I know it happened today, but I'm trying to remember which.
Monica Mastalone asking Pamela Gould
Mhm.
about the wife saying that Paul was sleeping and it was in the middle of the day.
Yes. Yeah.
Sneaky way to try to get the jury to focus on the fact, oh, he's disabled. He couldn't possibly do this. Like, he's not
Right.
even work. He's like home sleeping because he has these overwhelming headaches and pain. Nope.
Right.
And I'm like sitting there going, oh, come on, Miss Massalone. You know damn well this is going to get kicked. That's hearsay.
Mhm.
Unless you put Susan on the stand to testify to how he spent many days at home because of pain, he wasn't able to do things. There's no way. There is
Right.
no way. You need first party like witness. You can't, oh, the wife said he had a headache. It's never going to fly in court.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was, and she really tried too with the exceptions.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
it was her husband that said that he has the same disability insurance as Paul, right?
mm-hmm.
So does that
Yeah.
mean he has a disability too, or he's aware of
No,
the insurance?
no. After all, well, first of all, Jack Gould is an obstetrician in Monmouth County. It is not
Mhm.
very uncommon for people that are professionals whose make their money not just for what they physically do, like you have to physically be there.
Mhm.
When you can afford it, it's always advised by people to have disability insurance to take care of your family, your house, your mortgage, if
Mhm.
something should happen to you.
Okay.
um you know he
So
he's
so
not,
he has
it's
this.
not in this, it's not like you're home in your room and you're doing your job and you've got less risk, like
Right.
you're out in the public, you're at a hospital, you
Mhm.
yeah, and your
Yeah.
family is dependent on your income. And in Jack Gould's situation, his whole family, his practice, all his liabilities is
Mhm.
dependent on him.
Yeah.
So almost, and I used to work with a lot of physicians in small business, and they all carry disability insurance on the primary owners of the business and the people that were dependent on the profits, just to make sure they're covered.
Sure.
And
I
it's
get
a
it.
legitimate business expense for most of
Mhm.
them, especially if they're officers of their corporation.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, he wasn't too disabled to go on to Turks and Caicos,
Oh no, yeah,
Outer
8 months worth
Banks.
of traveling everywhere with his
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
friend. Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was, I'm like, okay, so he was sleeping from like 3 to 4, whatever. Then he told the police that he went to sleep at 6 or 6:30. So, you know, but then he's on the phone talking to Keith at 6:05. So clearly he wasn't sleeping. So there's like all these little lies going on. Like,
He
why?
straight out lied to the police about
Why?
all of it, and
Yeah.
how they can keep saying, like, why did they focus on Paul? Why did they focus on Paul?
Mhm.
Paul's own words from the minute they got there in Ocean Township are what
Mhm.
made them focus on Paul. Paul
Mhm.
did a really bad job of setting up the fire near the Porsche Cayenne. He left
Mhm.
footprints. I think that was an afterthought, that he
Mhm.
thought maybe we should just, I don't like, he didn't want to, he loved that car, I'm sure. He's
Mhm.
very obsessed with how things look, and if he should have a Porsche. Remember the conversation, he has to get the newest one, like
Mhm.
the next one going to be out. And no, he trying to set the front of it on fire, and it just didn't work
Mhm.
very well, but left all of that evidence with the footprints, the wet footprints near the garage,
Mhm.
the burn mark, the gas can. Leaving the gas can there was quite silly, unless he wanted it to look like somebody was just, like you said, somebody was targeting them. So he wasn't as careful with
Mhm.
what he left around because he really wants it to look like somebody else did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then,
Well,
do you
to
think he
that
put it
end,
out himself? The
uh,
Porsche fire, not the
mhm.
other fire, but the Porsche fire.
Yeah. Yeah. To that end, as we were watching the medical examiners, um,
Mm,
the the brutality and the messiness. That's what jumped out at me. That this was, if this was truly, a professional hit, or Keith pissed somebody off, and the group of people came over and did this. It was personal. It was very, like, intimate. It
mhm,
was messy. And not to be too graphic, but you wouldn't stab an 8-year-old child 17 groups, right? At first, it was 17 times. No, those were groups. one group I think was six
Mhm.
alone. So poor Sophia was just like just ridiculously brutalized. So to me, that's just somebody being rage, and a professional or somebody who doesn't care about you. They just slit your throat and off you go.
Right.
So
This
that to me, that threw that argument out the window in a heartbeat.
it
So.
did it kind of also showed that, for me anyway, it kind of confirmed what I had thought, that Sophia was the last one to be attacked,
Hmm.
that she was frantic, and that Paul now is frantic because
Hmm.
Sophia's fighting back.
Hmm.
Sophia's body, more than 50% of those wounds were defensive wounds,
Hmm. Yeah.
which means she's fighting back, she's running. When we found out it was her blood that is around the island, and now in my mind, I'm picturing Sophia seeing her brother dead and running around,
Hmm.
trying to escape Paul and then running towards, to get back upstairs. And then
Hmm.
his just frustration over the whole thing
Hmm.
just mounting,
Yep.
because, she's slippery. And, as horrible as this whole thing is, I don't think he wanted to hurt the children. He's like convinced himself he has no choice.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it also helps when I see him crying every time
Hmm.
it, he hears anything about Jesse or Sophia in
Hmm.
court. Um, I'm of two minds. I'm like, of sure, you're crying because that's going to play really well to the jury. But
Hmm.
also, I'm thinking, well, he is human. And if
Hmm.
he's got to be flashing back to those moments if he was the one
And
who did it,
screaming
and the
and
screaming, and I would be crying too. I mean, he would just not be human if he wasn't.
mhm,
Like, just from the sheer franticness of the whole thing and the crying
mhm,
and
mhm.
the carrying on. And uh, of
Sure.
course he's upset, and he's also crying because that's like the evidence that's going to be hard for the jury not to pay attention to.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
It
No, I can see him having remorse. I can see him having done this, and I can see him then having remorse. I can see him being upset that he got caught, and then also, oh my God, I can't believe I actually did that to my niece and nephew. I
Mhm.
mean, I can see him now reflecting back and being like, what did I do? What did I
Yeah.
do?
And what about the, oh my God, look at everybody seeing what I did. Look
Mhm.
at what
Right,
it
the
actually
exposure.
looks
Now he's
like.
exposed. Yeah.
Now he's exposed.
Yep.
Look at how everybody else is looking at it. That has to get to him too.
Yeah.
But that brings up juror number 9.
Oh, juror number 9.
Juror
What'd you think
number
about
9.
that?
How could you not be affected by that testimony?
I
Of
know.
course, everyone leaving that courtroom was like, "Oh my god." Like, "Oh my god." Your job
Mhm.
is to look at it, you feel the emotion. Nobody can look at that with no emotion at all.
Yeah.
Your job is to, okay, that was horrible, but what does that actually mean for the physical evidence? And,
Mhm.
I can't apply that emotion to the defendant. Every juror has to go through that. I mean, even the judge, even the prosecutor, even the defense, looking at those pictures, no one, even the witness, like anybody in that courtroom, could not hear that testimony and not react.
Mhm.
Especially, you're talking about an 8-year-old child, 45 pounds, running around a house screaming for her
Mhm.
life,
Mhm.
with her whole body covered in stab wounds.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, how do you hear that and not react, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think juror number 9 was the most honest juror.
Mhm.
Yeah, he came out and he went to the guy, like, he's upset, and he says to the guy, "I guess you're a little bit more used to that."
Mhm.
Like, but it doesn't mean that he's gonna be, like, condemning Paul because of it. It's a human reaction, and you can't ask jurors not to be human. Like, it's
Right.
impossible.
Well, they've
Yeah.
been holding in on to this for 12 days. What? Yeah, it's 15 days. Well, at that point, it was Wednesday, so 14 days. So 2 weeks. He's been holding on to this for 2 weeks, and you just want to express. And he said, where the other jurors are like making eyes, with each other. Like, I'm sure they're in the jury room. They're probably like, oh my God, can you imagine this? And they can't say anything. So again, it's just building up. It's just like this volcano or a pressure cooker. It's just building up, building up, building up. And he sees a bailiff and he's just, wow, can you, I guess you probably, you see this more often. You're probably used to whatever it is he said, you know? And then to go home and his wife, I'm sure his wife is like, maybe his wife's a true crime addict or junkie like us. And she's like, what happened? What happened? And, or whatever. So, yeah, I can see it as just a release. It was just a release,
Hmm.
and, Judge Lemieux, he was convinced, that, that juror is not tainted and he can still be objective. He answered the same way as he did in voir dire. So, and this guy may not even get chosen. He may be an alternate. He may not even get chosen. So,
Exactly. And I don't think it's going to be much for appeal at
mhm,
all.
mhm.
Um, Actually, there's more of a grounds for appeal in the fact that they showed graphic photographs, believe it or not. That's
To
to the jury is
the
so
jury.
prejudicial to show.
Uh,
Just think about that. Like what we were just talking about. How do you look at the damage done to a 45-pound 8-year-old girl and not get an emotional response, a prejudicial response against the defendant?
mhm,
There's no way. Okay.
yeah.
It comes up in murder case after murder case. They usually try to limit how much, and you notice they only showed certain body parts, and they used
Mhm,
they used diagrams
mhm,
instead of the bodies, and that is all not only courtesy and agreed courtesy to the victim's family and everything,
mhm,
but also a courtesy to the defense and agreed upon as overly prejudicial material. We want the information out, but we
mhm,
don't want it so graphic and gory that they can't get over the prejudicial image. They
right,
want it more probative than prejudicial.
right,
So, you
right.
know,
Yeah, they
so
didn't leave the images up long either. They would take them down.
mhm,
So yeah,
mhm.
no, I thought they handled it,
Gracefully, I
appropriately.
thought.
Yeah, gracefully.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, appropriately and
As
gracefully and
best as you can with
tactfully.
that kind of testimony. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
And then Jesse, he definitely got emotional, and I think some people in our chat were saying, that may be another reason why he was jealous of Keith, was that, Keith had the son that Paul never had.
right.
Because whenever they did mention Jesse, it seemed like, and they would show, Paul, he would, choke up a little bit more. And to me, it seemed like, because Jesse had, wounds, and going through his this part of the arm going into his chest. To me, he's doing one of these. He could be like in a fetal position,
Defensive wounds,
whatever
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to do that to the son that you never had on top of that, I have nephews, and I just can never, never even remotely put
Mhm.
myself in that frame of mind.
And, and
You know,
and there again, that's testimony that comes from the medical examiners that just portrays the defendant as a monster.
yeah.
When you think about defensive wounds in small children, and
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
what I mean about it being so prejudicial. So it's that's a better chance of appeal on that than on
Mhm.
this juror,
Mhm.
because actually Monica, she didn't contest. They
No,
didn't
she didn't.
contest.
Yeah.
So, and I think she knows that, so,
Mhm.
I just wanted to make that point, that that would actually be more prejudicial than actually
Mhm.
what the juror said to the bailiff, which is,
Right.
yeah.
So, in your mind, now that you've heard, the testimony from, pretty well, from the state for sure, we've heard all that, and especially the medical examiner. How do you think? And we'll go over Keith real quick. He was shot in the back, like pretty much like back down by his lower
Mhm.
spine, butt bone, if you will, and, then four times, I think, four times in the left side, in the face, head. How
Mhm.
do you think this all went down? Do you think there was a struggle between he and
Nope.
Paul? Do you think it
I
was
no
an
longer
ambush? And then how do
I
you think this went down?
I no longer think there was a struggle. I think
Mhm,
the brother, in order to do it, um, just think of their personalities.
mhm,
Keith is being said to be hot-headed and inflame quickly,
mhm.
which means he's reactionary.
Right.
If you come at him from the front, he's going to put his head down at 5'5", and he's going to take you out Jersey style, no doubt about it. Doesn't matter how big you are,
Right.
like his personality, the way they're portraying him, you could just picture him. Plus, every word we've heard is family first, loves his kids, take care of everything. There's
Mhm,
no way anybody's coming at him from the front that he
mhm.
doesn't do everything he can. And Paul would not have got out of that scuffle without some marks.
Right.
So that's what's leaning me that way.
Right.
Also, being shot in the back. Here's the brother. He might be stoic, and if they had such a good relation, And I
Mhm.
do believe the brothers were close.
Mhm.
Everything says they were close their whole life, closer than anyone else in the family.
Mhm.
They worked together, they ran businesses together, but now they're breaking apart because of disappointment in being betrayed.
Mhm.
Okay. That doesn't mean that the whole relationship is in the trash. Paul still loves his brother. Like he did what he, I don't have any doubt that Paul didn't love everyone in that family.
Yeah.
I think it's desperation and greed. And the only way he could shoot Keith is in the back.
Mhm.
Okay. And then he shot him trying to shoot him in the head. But remember, the hoodie, he's laying face down now because he's in the ground and he got shot in the back. He's
Mhm.
laying on the ground and he shoots him again, which I think he meant to make it the headshot to look like, this was an assassination, like this was taking the whole family out. And he
Right.
got that one in the cheek, that one that you said, like, that one that she says it came from the front, right?
Mhm.
But it's
Mhm.
actually him on the ground.
Right.
Okay. And the way the hoodie moved because he was laying on the ground in the face, it looks like it came from the front. But the medical examiner was very clear. It came into the front of the hoodie, went into his face. But
Mhm.
he was
Right.
on the ground, definitely on the ground
Mhm.
when that happened. And to
Yeah.
me, that resonated. Like, wow, you stood over your brother and shot him in the head while he
Yeah.
was on the ground? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul, I'm sorry, Keith had the bullet went through his back into his through his abdomen, and then went through here. This part, I think, was his right. So,
Uh-huh.
do you think like he must have like people were saying in chat he had his hands, maybe his hands on his hip, or he must have been wherever his abdomen, wherever that bullet came out of his abdomen, his hand was there. So, like, what do you think about that? Maybe his hands were
Where's
on
your
his.
phone?
What's that?
Your phone is in your pocket. Maybe you see it was on his phone in the pocket. Like maybe he was pulling his phone out of his pocket, his front pocket of his pants.
Yeah. It just is that's and then that's odd and then I think his hands were underneath his body, which kind of makes sense. I guess if you get shot, you're just going to fall over, right?
Yeah,
So
but don't forget he's like going out there and he's trying to figure out what's going on. So he's
yeah,
walking regular. He definitely has his phone with him. We know that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, like, how do you walk with your phone if you're like, I don't walk with my phone like doing something. Like I'm
No, you're
usually
right.
sitting
Yeah, I
down or
guess yeah,
standing. Like,
yeah,
but if you are walking with your phone, your hands are pretty much to the front of you, right? So if you
yeah.
get shot in the back
By
and
your
you fall,
waist. Yeah, by
right.
your waist
And if
area. Yeah.
you get shot in the back and you fall, I think about this stuff too much. Like, don't judge me.
No, I do too because I want to know. It's a mystery, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking it seems normal since he's up there, like, carrying his phone in a not a normal stance, walking out there quickly with his phone in
Mm-hmm.
front of him. Hands would be in front, shot in the
Mm-hmm.
back, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that
But
bothers me, the shot in the back part. Like I keep
yeah.
going back to that. Like,
But Pammy, but if he shot through the back through the abdomen first, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What was the first shot? To me, it's the shot in the back that gets him first. That's
I
what gets him
yeah,
down.
and I don't think the medical examiner was very clear on which one happened first because he was pretty clear about the body could not tell him. So that's all it's all
Yeah,
speculative for us right now. We just
yeah,
know that one that was on
yeah,
that some of them were on the ground and so
yeah.
they couldn't have been the first one. So it's a process of elimination. And I think
Right.
there were only two other shots or three other shots that he said they probably weren't when he was down and that was the one in the lower back, right?
Mhm.
That
Yep. Yep.
where the underwear was stained and everything and the
Mhm.
bleeding and like you're talking about the trajectory comes out and
Yeah.
into his hand. But the reason you think that that one was while he was standing up is there's no bullet that correlates with that one in the ground.
Right. Yeah. Well, they just said there were three bullets, I think, found underneath him, but they didn't say where underneath him. Right.
They were I thought they were all near the head area, like all
Really.
up with the ones in the shoulder, like the back,
Yeah,
like, you know,
that would make sense. Obviously. Yeah, that would make
yeah.
sense.
And if
Um,
you're thinking he just shot his brother and he's down and he's trying to make it, he's shooting towards his head to try to make it look like somebody's attacking the family. He's
mhm.
probably upset and shaking, and that's why we've got shoulder shots and missed head shots.
Closing his eyes, even maybe like doing one of these,
I,
looking away.
I can only hope there was that much humanity in him at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, but,
Yeah. All right. So, and somebody asked the question. I start it, but since we're here, we'll get to it now. That tree that's right next to Keith's body. I thought maybe they struggled and they ran into that, but now I'm thinking, no, I think he was ambushed. So, what do you think with that tree? Do you think that was just like
It was dark, and
random, or
Paul probably did that,
Paul could have
actually.
stumbled into it? Yeah.
He probably, after getting everything ready, and he's running around the front because he knows Keith's gonna come out the front, and he has to be behind him to shoot him in the back. So he has to get to the other side of the entrance, and he has to pass that tree to do it. He's gotta go over there and
Mm-hmm.
to get to the other side of the entrance so he can come up behind him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he probably just ran into it. I mean, it's dark. There's no lights. He made sure of that,
Right.
was
Okay.
safe.
So then that also then leads me to, and I agree with that. I can see that. Or after he shoots,
Because
he gets
there's no
tumbled
leaves
back
on the
and
tree, and you saw how thin it was, so you're not really gonna get much of an outline even in the dark. It's
true.
very thin, it's a young sapling,
Yeah.
it's very easy to miss it in the dark and just run right
Just
into it.
plow into it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it is dark. Lights are out. He takes out Keith. He makes his way then to that patio. He doesn't go in the front door, right? I'm thinking he doesn't go in the front door at this point.
Mm-mm.
Um, so what do you think? Do you think he goes in the front door? Or do you think he goes to the patio where the kitchen dining room area is? What do you think?
My theory is that he was in the back door before he shot Keith. That
Hmm.
yes, he did go in the front door because the stairs to the basement are right off the foyer right there, and that's where he shot Jennifer next. And she
Hmm.
was coming up the stairs when it happened, so she either heard the gunshot or she was looking for Keith.
Hmm.
Something. Okay. In just the position of her body, I do believe he went in the front door after he shot Keith. I
Hmm.
think the backdoor stuff, the way I'm playing, the way it is in my head, all
Hmm.
of that, except for maybe the bullet casing, all of the backdoor stuff going through the patio, going down, goes into the basement and sets stuff up. It's all before he goes after Keith. Because there's that time to 318. Okay, from the we see the 16-minute video going back and forth, but when does that video end? At 2:58, something like there's time.
Hmm.
There's time for him to go and set up the fire and come back up, and you know what I mean, and get things ready.
Oh, so you think he sets the fire up so he knows the alarm code, gets into the house without anybody hearing him, and the
Well, the
dog?
alarm's off. He's already been in the side of the house and dismantled everything. There is no alarm,
So he's dismantled the alarm and the electricity, though. Wait,
right? And I think he went and set up so he could light that fire quickly when everything was done. I think it was whatever accelerant and everything that he used in the basement. I think he got that all set up first.
so the power goes off at 2:52. So you think, and so 2:35, the figure is running around at the garage with the motion sensor. So he
Hmm.
has 20 minutes,
Yeah, because
2:35 to 2:52.
Keith doesn't start texting him till 3:15.
Right. So you think between 2:35 and 2:52 before the power goes off, he goes downstairs? You think he goes downstairs at 2:52?
I think you go downstairs at 2:52 when the power is off.
Wow. Okay. That's so he's taking a chance that nobody hears him in the basement with the power off.
Yeah. Yes. We could have struggled with Jennifer if she was down there. Keith was down there first.
Yeah, Keith goes down. He says, "I'm in the basement." He could have been hiding. He could be hiding.
I think he could have been hiding until Keith went back upstairs, and then he
Yeah.
just said it. And yep.
And then Jennifer comes down. I like your idea of the kids being in the kids being in the kitchen. She could
Oh,
have
yes.
opened them up.
It just makes sense to me. If you've got a 2-story house, you've got young children, the power's out,
Yeah.
and the generator's not coming on. So it's a serious problem because normally if the power even fluctuates, the generator kicks on because we're used to losing power. So it's a flicker and it's back on. Well, there
Hmm.
was no back on. Like there's something serious going on. And so it's dark and you want to help and you can't have kids crying and afraid upstairs while
Right.
you're trying to help Keith, figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
So bring them where you can see them and do both. I mean, if I was the mom, that's what I would do. You bring them closer to where you're going to be
Right.
and you're all like together. Yeah.
Right. So she gets him into the kitchen. She goes back downstairs to the basement. Keith is shot. Paul goes in the front door. Jennifer's coming up because she hears the gunshots possibly.
Hmm.
She's shot, but then the kid. So then where does the stabbing come in? That's
I
then
think
the
he stabbed her on the way out after Sophia, actually, maybe. I don't know.
yeah. There's no way he's going to shoot her and stab
I
her.
think it's just to make sure because maybe he wasn't sure that the shot did it. Because
Yeah.
I don't think he needed to grab that knife until that failed shot from the patio. You said about that. I had missed that about ballistic the evidence that they found that on the patio porch outside the kitchen, right? And they
Mm-hmm.
found a bullet. Why would it be out there? Unless he did try to shoot them in the kitchen and the gun
Mm-hmm.
failed somehow.
So that puts him outside, inside, then back outside.
Yeah. Well, I think he could have. He knows the house well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the timeline, like I'm always looking at the timeline, trying to find these big gaps of time. Because in the beginning, there's all this time, and then it gets really, really tight at the end when we have more evidence, like physical evidence of pictures in video and emails and things like that, and notices of when things get cut off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did think it was a good explanation of everybody was asking, why would the FiOS still be on? And remember I said about a UPS backup, and I was so glad to hear them actually say, yep, that's exactly what it was. The
Right.
UPS backup is going to keep it up for just enough time to send the messages out. And there you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Before it was completely dismantled. So it just
Mm-hmm.
had just enough backup power. But
Yeah. God, that's
um,
really chilling to think that he shoots Jennifer, gun jams, then he goes and grabs a knife, stabs the kids, and
because
then
he didn't bring a knife with him, so he didn't
no,
plan
no,
it, and it would be not really like a family execution if you're grabbing like a weapon from the house. If you're planning to take out a family, like just like from television and other cases and stuff like that, you
yeah,
don't normally use weapons from inside the house. You go in there, you do what you got to do, and you leave, right?
yeah,
So the
yeah.
fact that he even used a kitchen knife from their set was
Hmm.
it to me states that it's not planned.
Yeah,
It is definitely not planned to use a knife on those children or Jennifer.
right.
Okay, it just wasn't. Um, I do think for him, the easiest thing, just shoot them. I mean, how could he possibly even think about with the relationship he had doing what happened? I mean, that definitely wasn't planned to happen the way it happened with those
Hmm.
children. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I mean, I can't allow myself to think that that's what he planned, if you know what I mean. I just
Mhm. Yeah.
uh,
No, I
too
get it.
much faith in human beings as a whole to actually
Yeah,
think that that is possible.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, now it's just chilling to think that Jennifer is shot and then he stabs her afterwards. That's
Well, after seeing how the children were still alive after so much,
yeah,
can you really blame him? Like,
yeah.
yeah, he was
Unless
just
maybe
like,
she was
well, I'm not leaving you like alive to say I did this. Like, there's no way. There's just no
right,
way.
right.
Like,
And I'm
yeah.
thinking maybe she's still kind of moaning, groaning on the ground,
If
and he
she
doesn't.
made one sound, I
Yeah,
mean, would you want, I mean,
yeah,
knowing what just happened, would you want the mother of those children alive to come get you? I
yeah,
would.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
Ugh, it's just terrible. All right. Let's see what else. So we heard a lot of DNA, the ballistics we covered, the medical examiner. Yeah, DNA was they were all over. We had three, four, five DNA experts. Oh, what'd you think of that ATF agent, Abraham?
I liked
Um,
him.
yeah,
The fact that they brought a AFT electrical engineer experience from before he even joined the AFT, like up the like really, really good on it. In that I actually, it was impressive that the state took the extra step to eliminate any option that it wasn't a set fire,
yeah,
a regular set fire, not an electrical fire or something randomly that happened.
yeah. I liked him too. I thought actually, I This trial started off a little lumbering for me and a little sloggy, but then it really it picked up speed. It's like that snowball, it's like that typical
Yeah.
snowball, and I'm like,
It's
yeah.
all that logging of evidence, which is standard in New Jersey. It's a process they have to do.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I could see why that's hard to go through. Look at all of the pieces, who collected it, how it got labeled, where you found
Mhm.
it, why you decided to pick it up. Um, Very laborious of the prosecution to lay it out that way, but it definitely kind of shows that the evidence was leading where it led,
Yeah,
and actually law enforcements were doing a good job. Nobody was saying, there wasn't like a team meeting that said, we're going to nail Paul Caneiro and just find anything you can only on Paul. Don't look at anything else. Like that didn't happen. As
right,
much as they want you to believe it did, that didn't happen.
right.
But all of the evidence was leading. And I thought most of law enforcement was very good at saying why they took step one and led to step two and led to step three, and were
Mhm.
able to even counter the defense on why they did certain things,
Right.
especially the one who kept saying, we went where the evidence led us,
Mhm. Yep.
you know.
Yep. Yep. All right, I have two points I want to talk to you about, and then we can get into some questions from our
Mhm.
chat. They said that there were four casings found to be a 38, and then there were other casings for a 9 millimeter. So does that mean he used two guns, or
I do believe that Sergeant First Class Clayton testified that you don't have to use the exact ammunition. Like guns can take more than one type of ammunition, but the
okay?
barrel of a gun, and I don't know. I know that we have two people who know more about guns from my channel in the chat.
Okay.
MC Wrecker and Liam Wakefield. Please take that question, because could the 9 millimeter fire those casings? That's all I want to know. Just a yes or a
Right.
no. Because for me, I'm no ballistics expert. They're the guys that do the gun stuff for me. Like
Right.
I couldn't. What do you think? I don't think they could. And here's the
Mm,
question though. During the medical, like, because the bodies were so charred, they didn't get a lot of the bullets. Like they did get the 9 millimeter fragments though.
okay. I
Those
did
are
look
in
this up.
bodies. Yeah, those are
Right.
in Keith and Jennifer, the 9 millimeters, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll double check that. I think so. So I remember I
Mhm.
looked this up during when the testimony. So 38, while they share the same diameters, 0.355, 0.357, they differ in cartridge design, casing length, and pressure. So they are
Yeah.
similar, but that
All
that
I
could,
want to know is, will the 9 millimeter SIG fire that bullet? That's really the only question.
yeah.
Like, really, right? Because if it can fire that bullet, then it really doesn't matter. And it didn't really stick out too much, I think, to the jury,
Hmm.
because I don't believe defense really harped on it. Did they too
They
much? I mean,
didn't. They didn't.
no.
But my ears went up where I'm like, wow, there's two different kinds of casings found. Does that mean he had two different kinds of firearms then, or
I
did he
don't
have?
know.
Did he have?
Did the hothead Keith Caneiro have an incident with his landscaper the day before? That's what happened to the tree when the guy was running away from getting shot. I don't know. Like it could be anything. Like we don't even know that they, like, it depends on where they found those casings too. Under a body, near a
All
body.
right, I got four casings. One was in the kitchen, and I got question mark, question mark. There were five casings found at Keith's house, came from barrel found at Paul's house. Seven casings found that. Okay, so five casings found at Keith's house came from the barrel found at Paul's house. Seven casings found at Keith's house came from the Luger
Hmm.
9 millimeter found at Paul's. So
Okay.
five came from the barrel and seven came from the gun. So that's 12. That's 12. Uh,
Okay. Can
12. Yeah,
you Can
go ahead.
you just clarify for Liam Wakefield in the chat which oh he is answering. He
All
says
right.
yes, the 35 will fire in a pistol calibrated for 357. It depends on the headroom in the chamber. So
Okay.
it would have fit. So they could have
Okay.
used that ammunition in the gun.
Okay. Thanks, Liam.
In those,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Liam. That
Yeah.
clarifies that for us.
Okay.
Um, which
Yeah.
is probably why they didn't bring it up in
Yeah.
defense,
Make a big
because
deal out of it.
that
Yeah.
would have been a huge red herring, right? Like, would throw a whole that would have really confused ballistics a lot.
Right. So he's walking around with 2 weapons, 2 firearms then? What's going on, you know?
Well, he's
Yeah.
clever enough to have 2 barrels for the same gun. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he probably I don't know, like you said, he didn't go there to kill the kids, I don't think. So did he just go there to take out
No, I
Keith?
think he went there to kill the kids. I just don't think he meant to stab them. I'm
Oh,
sure he
oh,
was gonna shot them.
oh,
There was no way anybody in that family was getting out of this. He needed that money. He needed every part of it gone. I'm sure it went through his head, like, what if I leave Jesse alive and become his person, and then he'll
mhm,
inherit everything and I'll just guide him, you know?
right,
But
right,
then he's thinking, no, because Jennifer has family too, and there's no way they're gonna let that happen after everybody, like,
right. Yeah. Or
because it's
yeah,
gonna,
come
and
live
they're
with
gonna, yeah, and
come live
Keith
with you.
already sent, here's the thing, Keith already sent the email to everybody that he was
Mhm,
getting rid of Paul, and the family would have used that, and even maybe Corey Caneiro would have brought that up to
yeah,
keep Paul away from Jesse, or keep Paul away from influencing Jesse's money or having anything to do with how he spent it.
mhm,
So, he wanted the money free and clear,
right.
I think,
Yeah,
and so came to the decision that everybody had to go.
yeah. That's a good point. Jennifer says, "I think he intended to burn the house thinking everyone was still asleep." That's that's true too. He wouldn't have to he'd just shoot Keith and then burn the house down and,
If that was his intention, I don't think he would have brought a 9 millimeter SIG to the party.
well, to shoot Keith, right? That would be to take out Keith.
Oh, just take out Keith and let everybody
Yeah,
else burn?
yeah,
True, but he
yeah,
does know the family pretty well.
yeah,
That would actually add to the franticness and the upsetness of the scene with the
yeah,
stab wounds and the kids. That's a very good point, actually. Maybe
yeah,
he didn't want to do anything to the kids and Jennifer, thinking the fire would take them out. In other words, he didn't want to be the one to do it, but he wanted it done, but he wasn't going to physically do it.
yeah. That goes to I think it was JMS said that. Yeah, here, I want to pull this one up. This also is a good point, JMS. Could Jennifer or one of the children grab the knife to defend themselves and Paul took it from them and then in a rage used it on them? I could see that.
Well,
I could see that happening.
yeah, that would have been Jesse, since he was the first one
Hmm.
stabbed. Like,
Yeah, and he was in
it
the kitchen because if Jennifer is coming up the stairs, Paul shoots her
Oh,
and
and he's old
turns to the
enough,
kitchen.
right?
Yeah,
He's old enough.
yeah,
And he's not a
yeah,
slight boy either. He's like, what, 85 pounds, twice the size of Sophia.
yeah,
Um, and brave kid sitting at the counter, hears a noise, a rattle, grabs the
mhm,
knife from the block. Maybe,
mhm.
that's a good point.
That is a
And
good point,
then
yeah.
that's how Paul ended up using it,
Yeah, and then
perhaps.
how on earth do you think Paul's running around in the dark with no lights on? It's 3:34, well, 3:30 in the morning. Does he have the flare? Does he like how's he and then they would see him because if you have your phone on and it's lit up, you're gonna because we watched the video on how that
I
works.
I know it's not mentioned, but there has to be something in the kitchen that Jennifer left with the kids.
Mhm,
Either a candle or one
mhm,
of those battery operated candle things or something. There has to be some diffused light of some sort. I
yeah,
can't imagine children of that age sitting quietly at an island in a kitchen while their parents are running around outside trying to figure out if the boogeyman's coming to get them.
right.
I can't actually picture Jennifer leaving them in that state.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I would say a
Um,
lantern because a candle, again, you don't want kids to be with flame and everything. Yeah, yeah, we all have battery or I'm sorry,
I
flashlights that
have
all have
battery operated candles for that kind of thing, that, like, when the lights was we do lose power, like New
sure.
Jersey windstorms and stuff, and we have battery operated candles that I put in the bathrooms and near the stairwells and stuff like that. So you don't
Right,
have to worry about where you're putting your flashlight or what you're looking. There's a subtle, it's a low light. It's not a lot, but it's
right,
enough to see differences in floors.
right, right.
Importantly, in a bathroom if you need to go in there. You know.
Sure, sure. And I'm sure everybody had phones. I'm sure they're using
Exactly. I
lights,
don't
on
know
phones and stuff.
what
Yeah.
he was using, but what I do know is he was well versed in the floor plan of that house,
Hmm.
just as much as Keith and Jennifer. And the
Yeah.
more that the defense keeps focusing that they were always together and they always did stuff like that, that just proves to me that who
Mm.
better in that time frame who else could have done it? They can throw Corey in there all they want, but Corey would never have been able to pull that off in that time frame.
Right. Yeah. Now, Jennifer, I want to pull this up because I don't necessarily agree with this because Jennifer says even the lights out, there's still natural light even at night unless blackout window coverings.
There's a
A
lot of
was
windows in that house.
Yeah. Well, it was 3:30, 4 o'clock. Well, 3:30. It was cloudy because we know it was raining at 6 o'clock that morning. It was so 3 hours before. Chances are it was still
Mhm.
pretty cloudy. There was, unless there was a moon out, then I would agree with
Well,
that. But
you know what? But cloudy doesn't mean no moonlight because clouds move constantly, right? In the wind, up there, and
true.
it's not unusual in New Jersey to have rain coming and glowing. Like we could have the moon shining 3 houses away, and there's you don't see anything, and then it's raining in the house over here. We've all seen that. It
Yeah.
depends on the rain clouds, and it
Okay.
wasn't like a big storm. It was a subtle rain. It wasn't a big rainstorm, thunder, lightning, was it? It was
Uh,
one of those like density rainstorms where it just comes and goes. There could have
mhm.
been filtered light. There's a lot of windows in that house. It was a
Yeah.
modern structured house
All right.
made to be light, you
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Like,
There were a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking there was no street lights. There was 10 acres. There's
No,
no,
not there. Yeah, it's very
there's,
dark there. But
yeah.
because there's no street light, this is the kind of weird thing. Because there's no street lights and all of that,
Mhm.
the light that comes from the moon and everything else is actually brighter and actually lights and illuminates things even
Mm.
better. Or at
Mhm.
least the perception of it, like if you're
Yeah.
out there.
And there could
And
be, is there any like would there be any city lights? Would you be getting anything? Like,
not in Colts Neck. As you saw, all the houses, the land is cleared for the house, and that there's all these there's bands and bands of trees
mhm,
going around almost every piece of property, as you saw. And look
mhm,
at just the Caneiro's property alone. It's bordered by 3 different roads, and there was a bank of trees on each of them.
mhm.
If you look at it, like the whole thing was
Yeah,
surrounded.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not big forest, but it's enough to filter, in any visibility to cities and distance and stuff like that.
right. Yeah. I grew up in like serious country and there was no light pollution. Where we are right now, there's no light pollution either because we're far enough away from everything. But we do have street lights that
Mhm.
cast I can go outside and there's even one on our property. But
Even the street
yeah.
lights in areas like Colts Neck and all like that, they're long winding roads. There are street lights when they're
Mhm,
subtle.
mhm,
Okay, almost everybody has to. We put our high beams on and off constantly. If there's
mhm,
nobody's coming, we have them on because of the deer and all in the area. But as soon as you see another car coming, everybody turns them off, and then you pass each other and you put them back on.
sure.
It's like constantly on and off, on and off. But that
Yeah.
just shows you that the street lights really aren't that powerful,
Right. Right. Yeah.
especially with all of that wooded area around, and it
Yeah.
just kind of gets sucked in, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'm just wondering, yeah, he knew the plans of that house, like you said, backwards and forwards, back of his hand, if you will. I'm just imagining complete chaos, especially when he shoots Jennifer. If he does, he probably does that first. Um, those kids must just be freaking out, screaming, and that just
mhm.
be complete chaos. Um,
That may
they're
have been when Jesse grabbed the knife when he heard
yeah,
the shot.
they're in the kitchen, and
He
he shoots
never
Jennifer,
heard
and when
the
he
shots
turns, he's
from the
got them
kids.
blocked.
Yeah.
He's got them blocked in the kitchen, and then he's got to wrangle them. And
Yeah.
I don't, little kid, and Sophia was she was into martial arts, so I don't know what her level was, but she knew enough
Well, the
probably to
scene the
kick
scene
him.
actually shows that. I mean,
Yeah,
her
yeah,
body is the most affected with defensive wounds and the most wounds in,
yeah.
that she fought like crazy.
So maybe she gave Paul all those bruises, on his left side, or at least some of them,
My heart of hearts, I really hope so.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I'm sure she was kicking, screaming, biting. Well, if she was biting, there would be bite marks on him, but
Yeah, I think it was too frantic for her to get that close. I think more often than not she was trying to get away,
yeah.
you know.
I'm thinking once he grabbed her, because again, I have lots of nieces and nephews, and we wrestle and
Mhm.
wrestle with each other, and I'm like they're like little eels trying
I
to
don't even think he
get hold
really
of
got a
them.
good hold of her at all. There's all of that downward slashing wounds. Remember the medical examiner, and I don't mean to be graphic, sorry you guys, trigger warning, but he was very specific that the majority of those wounds were downward knife gash wounds, not like right in or
Well,
whatever.
I'm thinking
So
he's got her, and he's just doing one of these on her, poor
and
thing.
I picture him just with that knife trying to get at her as she's running away, and that's why there's so
Yeah,
many wounds, because over and over and she's still moving and he just doesn't have her, because like
yeah,
you said, she's into martial arts, she's wily, she's kicking, she's running, she's panicked,
yeah.
everything she can to get away. There are wounds on her legs, on her arms, on her
Yeah.
hands,
Her
like
feet, her foot, I think, or her foot.
right.
Yeah.
She's kicking. And that's where I think, like, going up the stairs where we found the body. And that's when he finally got her, because he could pull a leg, like he gets her, like she falls. Remember, there's a contusion to her face. She probably in the slippery blood everywhere. She slides on those stairs. It hits her face on the
Yeah, her
landing or
knees,
that
I think.
stair.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, her
And
knees.
and that's where he was able to do the most damage, because she was down.
Yeah.
I don't think she was down until she hit those stairs. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Jennifer asks, I thought his left side was dominant because we saw him twirling this, but then today he was actually writing with his right hand. So
Mhm.
I think most of the bruising was his armpit, his abdomen. He had everything on his left side except he had one cut, I think, on his outside right foot. So whatever
Mhm.
happened to him was all on his left side. Um,
Right.
whatever happened, whether somebody was kicking him, beating him, he ran into something, whatever it was,
I
all of it
can't
was on his left
imagine he
side.
wouldn't get all bruised up with everything he had to do in that kitchen, in everything that was going on.
Hmm.
Like, really, just, with his brother, even with just, we heard all the noise that was being made while he was dismantling things and everything.
Yeah,
Um, and the quickness in which he had to get out of there, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Anything, he could have got those bruises anyway. I still think the hand injury is from dismantling the meter, but
Hmm. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was that there was Sophia's DNA was found on the inside of his jeans, and I took that as blood soaked through. So what do you
it
think
was the
about?
inner thigh, not inside the jean. It was the inner thigh.
Well, she
Like,
said exterior and interior. So you
well,
took it as
bleed
interior as
through.
being his inner thigh versus inside.
No, no. I think that with the water, in with everything, that I'm thinking like you, it just saturated through.
Mhm.
Because why would it be on the inside of his jeans? Like,
Yeah,
only if it bled through,
right.
which
There's
it
so
more
much.
than
There had
likely
to be.
did.
I mean, there had to be so much blood between everybody. Well, Jesse and then Sophia. Yeah. Um,
Mm.
so okay, so you think then ultimately he does all of this. He runs out of the house. He changes very quickly, throws everything into a trash bag, uh, plastic container. Do you think he has like towels on his seat because, or is he driving in his underwear? Like, what do you? That's where my mind goes. Then, like, what happens afterwards? How does he not get any DNA? There was no blood, no DNA, nothing in that SUV. So how does he manage that?
A sheet, anything large enough to cover everything.
Okay.
Taking off your shoes, your socks, everything that you were wearing. And
Mhm.
don't forget, the testing on the vehicle, on the inside of that vehicle, was not extreme. Like, there could be DNA in there. They didn't swab everything. They didn't look for foot pedal DNA or this, that, or the other thing. They did a very minor sweep for blood
Mhm.
in biologics and didn't really come up with anything. But if they had taken that vehicle apart, I can assure you they would have found something.
They would
Well,
have
they
found,
didn't.
yeah. They did find a
Yeah.
glove, right? They did find a glove on the driver's passenger side. I remember that. But
Yeah.
it didn't test positive. But there was like six gloves, right? There were six gloves that
There
tested.
were
So,
nine in the pile. There was nine in the pile of stuff that they had,
okay.
but only one or two tested, like they tested for the DNA the
Yeah.
most. Um,
Let me see. Okay, that surprised me that there was like six gloves. I'm like, did he have like multiple gloves on? Why does he have so many gloves? All right, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. In the end, I think to me, I think they've proven. I think the states met their burden, and they've proven this for all the reasons we've talked about.
yeah, I just had to reset the
Yeah.
right.
All right,
Um,
I was going to say, let's get
I,
to some questions if that's okay. Or go
sure,
ahead.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Linda, do you visit the courthouse for this trial? I know we've talked about that before, but if you want to answer that.
I am not able to visit the courthouse. I had planned to when it was scheduled for September, but I'm not able to go there on a daily basis. I would love to be in that courtroom actually and see the jury's faces, but
Mhm.
I wasn't able to because of how they rescheduled it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, JMS, who else do you think the defense will call? We talked a little bit about that, but let's talk specifically. Who else to rebut or defend what the state has presented? Who else do you think they'll call?
Well, hmm, I think maybe they'll call a fire representative in because they went against their conclusions before, and maybe somebody from Ballistics, but I don't see anyone else being able to do much for them without great risk. If they call Corey, super risk. If they call Susan or any of the daughters, great risk if
Mhm.
the prosecution gets to cross them. Um, and kind of the way they came out of the gate with the friends, I don't think they've got much more. I think we'll hear from an expert witness, maybe.
Mhm.
I'm wondering though why they're not presenting physical evidence of why he couldn't commit the crime. The in my humble opinion, the only way he has a prayer of a not guilty is if the defense comes out and shows that it's very unlikely he had the physical capacity to commit this horrible crime.
Right. So that would be a
And
doctor or physical therapist or something,
yeah,
right?
and so I'm bracing myself for that because I think that, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, that's the one thing that'll move the needle with the jury.
Mhm. That could bring up enough doubt of like, oh, okay, so his
You got to,
mobility is such that, yeah,
but
that
there's
would.
there's a lot of physical evidence. There's the car and
Mhm.
the turning off of the DVR and this, that, and the
Mhm.
other thing. Because even if they prove he couldn't have been the one to actually do the whatever, he's enough involved that he's in the car, he's turning off VCR, he's setting things off. So even if they think maybe Corey helped him because
Mhm.
he's more physically able, that
Mhm.
timeline is so tight. They might have a little bit of doubt, but they're
Mhm.
not going to think he wasn't involved at
Yeah,
all because there's too much physical evidence there. You know,
agreed. Agreed.
it's, uh, it,
Uh, Jenny G asks, "What are your thoughts on the defense calling the witness with the video of Paul leaving, coming back to his house? Why didn't the state call him?" That was the neighbor, right? Is that?
well, the state didn't need to call him because they actually reported through the detective that showed the video that that's where they got it from. They actually said it was the neighbor's house and it was his
Mhm.
camera. The same evidence with Jack Gould.
Right.
He
Right.
had to admit that this is my footage that I gave to the police of Paul's car leaving the driveway and
Mhm.
coming back. It actually came from his good friend's cameras.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So they didn't really need him. I mean, they didn't need him. And why would they take the risk of putting him up there to say, I don't think he did it? you know, they have the visual, I kind of admire law enforcement for this, but they weren't really mincing, wafting and waning about stuff. They were doing what needs to be done, and they weren't like throwing a lot of extra stuff in there to muddy the waters. Because that's not law enforcement's job. That's defense's job afterwards.
Right. Right. All right, JMS, do you think the state, and we talked a lot about this in chat, do you think the state wasn't objecting during some of the defense crosses because they knew how bad the defense was doing, and they just let them keep digging a bigger hole for themselves? Yeah, what do you think about the defense or the state not objecting more?
I think it was a bit strategic because for appeal.
Hmm.
Um, I think when Christopher Decker, he's been around quite a while. He's been assistant deputy there for quite some time. Got a
Hmm.
long history. when he sees a judge already getting annoyed with the style of a defense attorney,
Mhm.
he's not going to weigh in much because that's going to open it up for appeal that the judge was only working with the prosecution and they coordinated against defense. It's almost an immediate appeal. I think the less that they actually object was actually beneficial because when it came down to it, they they were doing the work of the prosecution half the time. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know how Christopher wasn't smiling ear to ear and jumping out of his seat every time they halfway proved a prosecution point while trying to discredit the investigation. It happened repeatedly, like too many instances to even just list. And you said it yourself. Half the time you wonder who the defense was working for
Mhm.
because some of their strategy actually worked in favor of the prosecution. So I think it was smart to not
Mhm.
object. But when it came to actually going over the law legally, like when it came to hearsay issues and relevancy, I think
Mhm.
Nicole Wallace got a little more impatient
Mhm.
than
Agree.
Christopher Decker did. He thought it was working in their defense, and Nicole was like, just knock it off. Like, whenever she was in charge of the direct, there were more objections.
Mhm.
Okay. Unless
Mhm.
it had something to do when it came to do with entering that hearsay about the medical or something more damaging, or Christopher, if it once it went on for an hour and a half with Andy Murray, he was like, come on, like, this is enough. That question was asked and answered like so many times, and the judge has to agree with him. But I
Right.
think it was a matter of give them the rope and they'll do the job
Mhm.
for me. Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. I would agree with that. This is a good point. Red Snap. Do you think Keith stumbled over that tree after being popped in the back?
I would if he was on the other side of it, but he was coming from his house
Mhm.
towards the generator, and the tree is between Keith's body and the generator, so it's in front of
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
So he would had to stumble over it and then stumble backwards and then fall on his face. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that's not possible because who knows how he moved around after being shot, but it does look like he got shot and landed face
Yeah.
first. So
And then that brings up another question about where was Keith if we're going down the path of he ambushed. I'm sorry, Paul. Where was Paul if Paul ambushed Keith? Where was he hiding? Because there was really nowhere to hide. Like,
no, but it is dark and all he has to be is close to the front door and you don't see him as you're coming out the front door.
oh, and they kind of followed him around that corner because it's
And he
it's right.
has to follow him. Yeah.
Yeah, he follows him around the corner. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, that makes sense. Um, Steven says, "Can you see his bald spot in?" Maybe you can see his bald spot in the garage door if you look carefully, or can you see it? Um, I'll have to look at that again.
No, and I don't think his bald spot was as prominent in 2018,
That's true.
actually.
That was a
Because
that was.
just looking at his hairstyle in the DVR footage, it was
Mhm,
messy and everything, but I didn't actually catch a bald spot in the DVR footage.
yeah. JMS, any guess on how long the judge will allow the closings to be? The openings were not timed, so what do you think? Does
I think that this judge is going to be so relieved that they're not going to March 20th. He's going to give them as long as they want. Like, that's
yeah?
it.
Oh
I
yeah, that's
think, yes,
how do you feel about that? I mean, 10 weeks and now here we'll probably be done next week.
I would say Judge Lamo was erring on the side of caution,
Mhm.
knowing what he put up with in pre-trial with these attorneys and everything that they threw at it. And I think he just wanted to make sure there was enough time. But
Mhm.
I think the prosecution's case went a little smoother than they thought. And
Mhm.
actually, for as long as Andy Murray and Monica Mastellone took in Cross, I
Mhm.
don't think they did anywhere near as long as it took them in pre-trials, where I swear we listened to Monica Mastellone for almost an hour and 45 minutes try to do an oral argument. So
Mm. Yeah,
that was rough. I think that they were thinking about that when they made the schedule a little bit, but
I think
I
so too.
yeah.
Yeah, this could have been like 3 days shorter. Like this could be like
Well,
last Monday.
I think both the prosecution and the defense overestimated to the judge because, like, even the defense said we need 2 weeks. What do they need 2 weeks for? Like, what are they?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
what?
And I get it. I understand that, with scheduling and, there's so many people involved and so many moving parts, you'd rather, it's so much easier to end early than to, have to tack on time when you just can't, you just can't. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, Pammy, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but one more time, what's your opinion on that juror number 9 that spoke to the bailiff? What do you think about him? Did he do any
A very
damage or?
I don't think he did any damage. That's a human natural reaction. I'm glad they cleared it up. I'm glad they brought it forward for transparency and
Mhm,
let the defense deal with it. However, they thought with the opportunity to, find out what he was thinking and whether it's really going to affect him going
mhm,
forward. The judge reiterating that they're told in the beginning they're going to see graphic stuff and they have to be able to handle it. And
mhm,
then letting him actually answer whether he could handle it or not. I think the man had a normal reaction that most of us would have, and he
mhm.
just said something to the bailiff, which to me sounds like a normal statement. You must be much more, used to this
Yeah.
than I am. And I can even see the sheriff's officer saying nobody gets used to this. Like it's a standard answer. Like who would say, yeah, I'll get used to
Mhm.
it. Like I could imagine
Yeah.
just in passing. I don't think it meant as much as it could have, you know, had his
Mhm.
answers been different. But I think
Mhm.
his honesty showed the judge that it was a human reaction. They're all going to feel that way. It's what they do with it afterwards that is the matter with the jury.
Yeah.
And yeah, and he did give the defense a fair shot
Mhm.
at getting him disqualified, and they
Yep.
chose not to.
They chose not to. Yep. She could have very easily said, "You know what, Judge? Let's err on the side of caution. Let's let him go. We still have 2 more, 3 more." They have 4
Mhm.
alternates? Yeah, 4 alternates.
Right, they have 4 alternates, and you know
Yeah.
what? In Christopher Decker would neither the prosecution would not have contested if Monica spoke up or
Yep.
Andy Murray spoke up
Yep.
because they're gonna say, "Hey, we have no problem," but on an abundance of caution, if
Mhm.
they do, fine. We have other
Mhm.
jurors. We're not worried
Mhm.
about it. We don't need him. We got a
Yeah.
strong
We're
case.
coming to the end anyway. We know that the end
Mhm.
is, the end is right there, only, maybe another 2 or 3, 4 days tops. So, yeah.
I mean, can you imagine with this weather and everything and the horribleness of this trial, we didn't lose any jurors.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been, other trials where we lost 4 jurors in, like, the first 2 weeks. Like, it's
Mm.
like, you know,
Wow. Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just
well, the first week, the one juror was sick, right? And then that's it.
yeah, but
You would.
instead of disqualifying the jury, we just took the day off.
Yeah.
We just didn't have court. We
Yep.
gave them a fair shot because, like, it was just a normal thing that would happen. It's not like they can't come back,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This is a good one. Jennifer, is it common for Paul to leave from 2 to 4:30 AM?
It
So,
might have been 8 months prior to this, but he had moved back home with his wife at this point, so, no, I
yeah.
don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe 8 months ago it was.
Yeah, where are you going, Paul, at 2
Yeah,
o'clock? Yeah.
yeah.
Um, we talk about this a lot in our chat. Sharon asks, "Aren't jurors offered therapy afterwards if needed?"
Yes,
They are.
and, also law enforcement, they have big
Yeah.
programs,
I would assume the judge, the attorneys, yeah, they probably all
mhm,
have access to that. But yeah, the
mhm,
jurors are for sure, especially
um,
trials
yeah.
like this. Yeah.
That really hit home when one of the officers was talking about discovering the body, and he still was having a physical and emotional reaction to speaking those words,
Mhm.
reliving that moment. It also hit me in the Vallow Daybell trials,
Mhm.
that, how affected law enforcement was by their discoveries.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a tough job, you
Yeah.
know, give them a
And
lot of
Barry's
credit. They're
right.
still
Yeah,
doing.
you don't get sorry. You don't get used to it. You become, yeah, what's the well, you get better dealing with it. Yeah, I mean, after you
Mhm,
see the depravity of human beings, I'm sure you're still, like, shaking your head, but and I'm
mhm.
sure there's still some cases that they're like, "Ugh, I can't believe we humans do that
Yeah.
to each other," but, it
I
will.
I think they get better, not just at handling it, but just at, like, giving themselves time to adjust to it, knowing they're gonna have issues at certain times, and giving themselves the space to feel it and deal
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, same with, yeah, law enforcement, everything that they see day in and day out. And then on the legal side, you got the judges and uh then the lawyers. Yeah. I mean, and the bailiffs and the court reporters. We don't even
Mhm.
think about the court reporter. That court reporter is the one that's writing all this stuff down, and viewing
Yep.
it and seeing it too. So
Mhm.
it's It's everybody in that courtroom that sees those pictures is affected by it for sure. So.
Yeah, I mentioned that yesterday when I was doing a review because we don't realize how it affects the families and everybody involved with the case when testimony like yesterday's comes
Hmm.
forward. Those medical examiners, that's not easy for anyone in
Yeah.
that courtroom. Anyone involved in the case whatsoever, law enforcement, like you said, even the court clerks that have to type that out,
Hmm.
the word for word what that man just said,
Yeah.
the jury, the families, even Paul Caneiro's family to hear
Hmm.
all of that.
Hmm.
um, Paul Caneiro himself to actually
Hmm.
hear
Yeah.
that. Um, yeah,
What do you think about Susan sitting so close to Jennifer's sister, who was giving daggers to the back of Paul's head the other day? And then I guess that's her mom sitting next to her daughter, the sister.
yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think about that? Like, why aren't they separated? Usually, it's one side is on
Well,
you know, like
because of where the jury is, I don't think they're allowing anybody to sit on the other side very much. I don't see a lot of people over there. Okay.
okay,
I
yeah,
see everybody who's coming to watch on the one side. And
hmm,
also look at where prosecution is and where the defense is. They're on the same side. They don't have the table set over there where the other
hmm,
benches are. They are
yeah,
all set up. So everybody's sitting there.
yeah,
And we're talking about a family that's been together for how old are his daughters in their late 20s?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this, they're talking about family that's been united for 20 more years together.
hmm,
And
yeah,
this is a tragedy for all of the family, all
right,
of the family. And of course, Susan is still close with Jennifer's family and all too. And
hmm,
this is something they're going to. And it's also, why wouldn't she be? You know,
yeah,
of all the tragedies involved in this case, it's all horrific. But you
hmm,
think of Susan as the wife who
hmm,
was left for another woman and finds out that he comes back in November just to do this. And oh,
hmm.
by the way, the fire that he set was under my bedroom window.
I know,
Like, I mean, to say that this woman should be conflicted, I mean, I
hmm,
don't think that's an overstatement. Of course
right,
she's conflicted.
right,
Um, and especially when you hear the phone calls, no one's going to tell me that that woman's not detached. I
right,
mean, I
absolutely,
every word she said, although they weren't what I'm going to say next, they were all different words. It
hmm,
sounded to me like, "Yeah, Paul. Yeah, Paul.
hmm,
Okay, Paul.
hmm,
Whatever, Paul.
hmm.
Yeah, okay, Paul. Whatever, Paul." You
I
know,
agree.
to the whole conversation, that's what it sounded like to me. And I
I
know there were
agree.
different words, but
Yep.
that was the tone. That's what I got. She's like, "I'm still stuck married to you. I should have divorced you 8 months
Hmm,
ago and I'd be in bitter shape right now, or would
hmm,
I? I don't know." But,
yeah,
she's lost so much. Why would
hmm,
she want to lose her connection to the rest of the family? Like, I don't think
yeah,
she's willing to do
yeah.
that.
And
And
hope. Well, are
it's a
they
little
or go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
wouldn't it be just a little bit fun to sit next to that family and look like you're on their side just to bother them just a little bit? Just to
Hmm,
unnerve him just a little bit, just show like you can't count on me, Paul, because you've been unfaithful to me. You
hmm,
took me for granted, and now you need to worry about where I am with
hmm,
things.
hmm,
Because when he said he wanted to be with her when he got out, I didn't hear her answer about how wonderful that was.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. She didn't say, "Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that," or "Yes, yeah, we can." Yeah, there
She
was
didn't
no
say
optimism.
she didn't even say, "We'll talk about that when you get out." There
Right,
was nothing that
right,
came out of her at all in
right,
regards to that, and that stuck out to me. I'm
right.
like, she's in a very untenable position
Hmm.
currently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's, I guess, Jennifer's family is welcoming her in, or we don't know that.
Of course they are. They got a civil suit coming up. And that's the other thing. Of
Yeah.
course, Susan is going to be sitting with the family. They're all involved in this huge civil suit to protect the rights of the trust.
Hmm.
Okay. And, Susan doesn't want to get blamed for any of that. She was working with Corey to get into business stuff and everything from the beginning. We heard that in the phone call with Paul
Hmm.
and with Tiffany. Okay. And I don't think Susan wants to get involved as being somebody they litigate against either. The more
Mhm.
she looks like she is also just a victim of, and I'm not saying she's complicit at all, because she's probably not,
Mhm.
but the better that it is that that everything's just good with them, because then she's not going to be in the litigation as much either,
Mhm.
because they're still fighting over everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's gotta be a incredibly, incredibly awkward, difficult, sad, all the adjectives of like what, how they look at each other, what are holidays gonna look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now,
Well,
yeah.
I feel for his daughters. I saw the one daughter, she posted a lot with the niece.
Mhm.
She did. Marissa, I believe it was Marissa Caneiro,
Mhm.
posted numerous pictures of her with the niece. That she used to just love to dress her up and take her out and do all kinds of stuff. And like,
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of conflicted feelings there. I mean, it is your
Mhm.
dad, and he
Yeah,
says he didn't do it.
right.
And one thing that sticks out to me the most to show how conflicted they are is that until the last pretrial conference, we never saw the family except for when he was indicted. And for
Mhm.
years, we didn't see them in any of the hearings.
Mhm.
But they've been coached onto what the appearance is. They don't want to be the ones to put the nail in his coffin. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Right,
if he did it, he did it, but they're not going to help anybody prove it. That's for sure. So
right,
Susan's not going to testify. The daughters aren't going to testify.
right,
But they're not out there trying to prove him innocent either.
right. Well, it'll be interesting, if he gets convicted, who is going to be giving victim impact statements or on his side. Not, it wouldn't be a victim impact statement. Well, no, it wouldn't be. It would be who's going to stand up for him and say, "Hey, you know what? Will they come to his side at that point? Will they talk against him, or will they just not engage?
Are you asking me what I think will happen?
Yeah,
Like,
sure, yeah,
I don't think they will give them,
hmm,
because, in all honesty, if he is convicted and we're
hmm,
at a, pre-sentencing and they get to say anything,
hmm,
4 life sentences, what's it going to matter? Not anything they say is
hmm.
going to get any leniency. What? We're going to do it 3.5? No, it's always going to
Concurrent,
be 4 life
consecutive.
sentences.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They can't make it any worse or any better than what it already is. So why put themselves on the line that way? I
Right.
don't think they will. I think they
Yeah.
will choose not to.
Yeah.
Um, they have to have relationships with the families afterwards,
Yeah.
with Corey and his wife and those nieces and nephews, and hopefully with Jennifer's family also. So
Mhm.
I don't see the daughter. One of the daughters might, because one of the daughters, and I think it's Katie, is a bit feisty, in a
Mhm.
bit like, she was the one who said, "Well, I think that they held us there against our will, trying to entice a conversation out of us. Like, they did that on purpose." Like,
Mhm.
she was the one that was telling the defense team that.
Right.
I, you know,
We
I,
saw
I
Monica sorry.
Go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
gonna
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
we saw Monica Sementili's daughters, they stood by her side, they stood by her side. Um, so sometimes I don't know, it'll be interesting to see, if because like you said, I mean, they're cousins, they're still gonna have to, or maybe not. Maybe they'll just go their own way, and, I don't know, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that plays out. Um, Jane asks, "Do you think Paul was going to run? Do you
I
think he
think
was
if
going
he
to
had
run?"
been given the opportunity and the funds, yes. But remember, they kind of got a clue about the financial crimes right away and locked everything down.
Mhm.
Within days, there was no access to those banks.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess he would have run with his mistress, with
Well,
Restrepo, or just
backpack was, here's the thing, his neighbor said his backpack was always in the car, and I had
mm,
his passport and everything in it all the time. So I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, well, maybe
yeah,
he would have.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. I guess that's pretty much all I have. Do you want to add anything before I let you go?
I think that's it. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. Like, I sleep better at night getting all this out, you know.
Nope.
And I do love your chat. They ask such great questions, and they're all so friendly and welcoming, and it's really a nice experience. So
Yeah.
thank you both. Thank you, Chris and Aaron, for that. Like, it's awesome.
Well, you're welcome. And tell us where we can find you again.
Over on Claire View, 307, where I'm doing not just true crime, but a lot of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've got the video on Luigi Mangione you might want to check in on over the weekend.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
But brace yourselves, people. I get a little opinionated sometimes.
No, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Aaron pulled it
Okay.
up. Wait, here,
Yeah.
Aaron pulled it up. There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Clairview. Yes, there it is. Clairview 307.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Claire. Thanks. And well,
Okay.
next week. We'll see you next week.
See y'all Monday, right? Yeah.
And Monday for sure. But yeah, for the
Yeah.
recap, we'll see you next week. All right. Have a great
Oh,
weekend.
that'll be great. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right. Let me just quickly get to some posts here. CJ says, became a YouTube member. Thank you, CJ. And Good Vibes Only became a YouTube member. Thank you for that. The former Steno became a YouTube member. Let's see. Vicky, member for 7 months. Thank you for that. And Mallory, Clairview is spot on about a lot of these. Member for 11 months. Thank you for that, Mallory. And Mallory, $4.99. Thank you for that. Love y'all. Thank you for covering this trial and recaps with Claire. Justice for Sophia, Jesse, Keith, and Jennifer. Absolutely. Agree with that 100%. And Pammy, love this collaboration every time. Thank you all for doing this. Chris, Aaron, and Claire. Thank you, Pammy. Thank you for that generous donation. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for that. So, and Jenny. All right, before I go, Jenny, thank you. Thank you to Chris and Clairview. Another great recap. Thank you so much, Jenny. Appreciate that. All right. That's about it, you guys. So again, thank you, Claire, for joining us for this week 4 recap. Have a great weekend. It is Friday here for us. Really appreciate you spending your day with us and then now into the evening here for us on the East Coast. Stay warm, stay safe. I understand there might be, look at little cheddar up there. Understand there's going to be another snowstorm possibly for the Northeast. So definitely take care of yourselves. Be safe. Thank you to our mods for keeping our space respectful and keeping the courteousness prevalent. We really appreciate that you guys do that for yourself and for the channel. And then Aaron, thank you for doing all that you do in the back end. Really appreciate that. So off to watch the Olympics. I guess the Olympics are starting, so that will be a fun distraction from all of all this nastiness that we cover every day. So with that, you guys, I will end the stream. Have a great weekend. We're not streaming this weekend, so I will see you on Monday at 8:15 for New Jersey versus Paul Caneiro. Take care, guys. Bye.